Hi, welcome to First Sense Friday and the weekly catch up to see how you guys are doing and what's going on in your life, what's happening energetically, and whatever's come up for Vicky's head this week. So I'm going to be a little bit traditional in that we've just passed Valentine's Day yesterday. So although I don't subscribe to the materialistic aspect of Valentine's Day, we can talk about love all you want. So one of the things that I thought I'd bring up is the amazing amount of energy that flies around in and on one of our holidays. So when you have a holiday like Valentine's Day, where the message is about love and it's on this specific day, it can be a mixed message for some people because, there's some of us that are not hooked up with said partners or anything, and yet that's supposed to be a deficit. So one of the things that I've always promoted with Valentine's Day is that the love should be 365 and a quarter. People always forget about that quarter. We got to put it in there. Otherwise, we're all out of balance after a couple of years. So we can talk about love, baby. So this is one of the things that I wanted to talk about was how amazing that there's a symbol of heart, right, for love. It's what pumps all our blood and it's both functional and gets the credit for where we feel. And when people say I love someone, they often talk that they love them from their heart, right? But actually where that's coming from is your energy field, because everything starts in energy before it becomes physical, right? First sense, energy, then we get all the other five. So when you're talking about loving something or having an appreciation for it, and yes, there is an energy surge that happens, but it would be great if you started paying attention to the field around you, because you're missing out if you think it's only here. Thank you, Deb. She likes my top. I do too. BJ's. I only shop at the best. So when you're open to the energy fields and the love that's pouring around, any given day, not just one day out of the year, you start to fill up with all of that. And you start to be able to see it in more things. Like there's a great Buddhist expression, if you like a flower, you'll pick it. If you love it, you'll leave it. Because if you truly love it, you'll leave it to appreciate and for someone else to appreciate and for it to do its life naturally. So I was thinking about this week because it was a tough week. I don't know if anybody else energetically had a kind of bumpy week, but it definitely was. And not because of Valentine's Day. We're not going to blame the poor Valentine's dudes. There's two that get credit for it. But because there's the energy that gets created from humans in and around the description of the holiday. So there may be people who were feeling, less loved because they buy into the idea that the material expression, or if I don't have someone else saying it to me, then I must not be lovable. Because when you're a bull, it comes from other people. When you have love from within, it's love. You don't need a bull. You are already love. You don't need to be lovable. So, little sidetrack there. Anyway, so this past week was a little bumpy too because it's Howard's birthday, and normally dates don't bother me. I will say that the random Tuesday when I forget that he's croaked and I all of a sudden remember can be the more difficult than any dates coming up because they're more predictable, right? They're coming. This one knocked me on my keister. And then it was close to Valentine's Day, which we never did much for anyway because we were celebrating his birthday. So he got gypped. It's like Christmas babies. You get a little bit of gypped no matter what they say. So I was going through this, it was rough, it was a bumpy process. There's no timeline on grief. I don't think we talk about that enough, that I'm good and I trust and I still honor where he is, but sometimes it royally sucks. And this was one of those weeks. Well, then as I was doing what I do, I go for a run when things get too much for my energy field. When I'm feeling all this stuff out here, but it feels like it's in here because the energy field, your chakras that line your spine, they get all charged from these fields, and there's way too many bodies to do in one session. But so these energy fields can go up, they can go down, and the emotions are more the human element of things, but it all works together if you're doing a great job. So I knew energetically that yes, there was some grief there that hadn't processed out of my field, and most likely will be some element of it, until I croak and chase him down. Imagine that intro. Hey, wait for me. But as I was going through this, I went out and I decided I just need to be outside. I need to go for a run. So as I'm running, I had this feeling that one could say it was the hills, but I actually think it was more this flood of energy that I felt. And I realized it was coming from the love I had and have for him, but also my field was so filled up. I actually looked around to see if there were any puppy dogs or something, because they usually emanate it pretty strongly, and you can feel that happening too. So there weren't. So as I'm feeling this download, and granted I'm familiar with it, and this is why I want everybody to practice, because the feeling that came through was so powerful that yes, I started crying, and it wasn't because of the running this time. It was because I realized that and I've known this, but I sometimes can forget it in the human busyness, that when we croak, kick the bucket, check out, punch your ticket, there's more. But when we activate that, you become non-physical, pure positive energy. And the amount of love that's there, I really don't think our human bodies know how to process that much love. So that's why it hit me. But then I started thinking, wait a minute, we're looking at this loss thing, we're looking at this croaking thing as a loss, which you've heard me say before. I didn't lose him. He's not wandering around the mall somewhere. I know where he is. But we're looking at it from a deficit place. Maybe the sadness and the pain and everything I was feeling, although human emotion and very valid, was amplified because I was resisting letting in the love that was already there in nature and in my world and with him and from him. And once I hit that, I actually started laughing a little bit. And then I always go to the place where I'm so impressed that we are non-physical beings, physical beings, and we still maintain some of that non-physicality. So when this was before Valentine's Day, and then Valentine's Day rolls in, and I thought, I'm going to save this for Friday rather than be just another Valentine's Day post of love yourself. Well, maybe the love that you are not feeling is being blocked by some message within you that you can't let it in, or that it might be too much to let in. And yeah, it can be. I mean, I can go completely eyeballs rolling, snot running down my face from those videos on Facebook too. That's a good thing, to see how much we can open up our heart's energy field and to let all of that in. And I just wanted to say that if you struggle with, or you have a challenge with seeing yourself in that loving space, that open yourself up energetically. Start thinking about this field around you, the aura, your energy field, or all the bodies, as being the receiver, because that might let it in a more gentle, in a more permissive way. to be able to say, well, my field receives love. It's just a little step removed. It's actually something I use in the belief repatterning and in coaching, the idea of this, that, the. Sometimes if we have a hard time letting in all this love, it might be too much. Maybe we're not used to it. Maybe that wasn't an expression taught in our families or in our society. So if you do like that love that comes into the field, or the love that can come into the field, and you let that come in and permeate, you feel a little bit more at ease in letting it in. And then you can do that love that I see in my granddaughter's eyes, that love that I see in LB when I have a Brussels sprout in my hand. I know it's love. It's not all about the food. He really does love me. And then this love that I feel within my being, my whole space, inclusive of my energy field, and yes, my energy centers, and if you want to believe the physical heart, then you can let it in and you can have a very cellular experience with it. So if you're not feeling particularly loved or lovable, you are lovable. I promise you, you are. But you're having a hard time letting it in, try that. Try it at a distance. So Bette Midler's on from a distance. So the reason that this was coming up is I see so many people lamenting about not having love in their life when I can clearly see it's around them, but they're not able to let it in. And I think that one of the ways we can authentically love others is by knowing our own value and loving ourselves, because it has to start within. And we don't need to block it anymore. And I wasn't someone who would say I love you to my friends back in the day, but I'm pretty free with it. I've even slipped and said it to, he's talking on the phone to someone who calls from the credit card company or something. It's like, oh shoot, they don't need to know that, Vicki. You don't really know them, but it becomes part of your genuine expression once you start to feel it for yourself. And there's, I think, a gift that we can give ourselves and others by stop being so sarcastic about love. Like, it's one of our greatest attributes as a human, and I think we have to step into that and be willing to be brave. And someone might not say it back, and that's fine. I don't think the guy at Capital One really loves me, so he didn't want to say it. It's fine. I'm over it now. But one of the things that happens when you allow yourself to be in this resonance and you let the love come in from the guides, from nature, from your family, friends, is that you start to see it existing everywhere. And then it starts to remove the resentment and the frustration and the anger and the stuff that can be part of being human, because energy travels. And there have been times where I have overloved people, where their behavior did not warrant my return or my investment or my sticking in there. Some could call it stubbornness, we could. And then I realized over the last couple of days, it was more because I never want someone else to feel that they aren't loved. So I would hang in there, not in an annoying, stalking kind of way, but I'm available. You need anything? You good? And if it wasn't reciprocated, I'd still be there. And that's called being a doormat. And we don't want to do that anymore. So, but the reason that you do that is because you believe that everybody deserves that love, and you can love them, again, from a distance. So when you go through this week, ask yourself if you're really applying the love factor to yourself. Like, are you allowing yourself to appreciate the fact that you have this field that can bring in all this ooey gooey fun stuff? And Can you acknowledge and see that you carry that? Because I see a lot of people who think that their only role here is to be of service, is to be showing that love, is to be nurturing, is to be giving it out. And I don't subscribe to that, because you eventually run out. And Mother Teresa's a good example. Everybody thinks she loved her life, but check in those last couple years, wasn't a happy woman. And that's too bad, because I think she started out loving what she was doing. But when it becomes only in service, not of service, when you're doing it of service, you're doing it from a place of love rather than feeling that need to do it or the martyrdom or any of that kind of stuff. So when it comes authentically, that means you love yourself. So kudos to you. So pay attention this week. Let's use a little bit of first sense. We'll do some psychic sit-ups here. A little bit of first sense activation. So pay attention this week when you have that feeling come up in you of adoration or love or ooey gooey, whatever you want to call it, for someone, something, some experience. And then see if you can feel it out here. See how far outside your energy field can you get it. This angle makes me look much wider than I am. So I'm thankful to say. But anyway, see how far outside you can get your field, not your waistline. So because that will start to then attract it into you. Okay? So acknowledge it within yourself first. Give yourself a high five for being able to recognize love, because some people have a hard time seeing it. And then see if you can feel it in your energy field, because it becomes a lot of fun to do that. And it can be like you see there was the most adorable couple in the grocery store the other night, and they had to be 125. But they were helping each other get the products they need. They were bickering over what's good for them and what's not. It was so stinking adorable. And you could feel the love permeating. And most people would look at that and say, well, they were bickering. There's not love there. There was so much love. I think it's sustaining them. And that's so beautiful. I did gawk for a little bit, but being able to feel that will enhance your own life. And then I believe once that's enhanced, we take it out and then we can share it, right? So thank you for the hearts that you people are putting up. And Emily, you can appreciate the fresh cut flowers. You can go one step further and ask the flowers permission to be cut and transported. If they're in the grocery store, you kind of missed that boat, but you could still give appreciation for the fact that they're there, and that would be sending the love back. But when you're out on a walk, or when any of us are in nature, leave stuff where it is, unless you're picking up trash. Pick that up, because that's love for the earth. So thank you for checking in. Thank you for being here for First Sense Friday. If you have any subjects, energy, anything that you'd like me to speak on, I'm also beginning the podcast. So there'll be more of that available on other channels, and look for that in the upcoming weeks. And I love what I do. I love you guys, and I'm so grateful you're part of my journey. And I am going to go finish my Friday, and I hope you have a fantastic weekend. What happens after death? Oh, that's a very long conversation. Directly after death, actually before the first breath, you're already crossing. So what happens after that, I will cover that on the next one. So making a note now. Thank you. Thank you, Jill. Thank you so much. Bye, guys.